Good evening, sisters.
Good evening, Father.
I'm very happy to be here to preach the monthly recollections, not only for this month. As our dear Sister Provincial said, I'm going to preach the monthly recollection entire year for 1 year.
Thank you.
So, if you think that this is only for this month, have it in mind. I'm going to appear every month. And I'm going to preach on rule of life for 11 months. 11 months. So this is almost for a year. As Sister said, I got certain opportunities to learn about your rule of life when I prepared for you for the last chapter. And then also on certain occasions when I addressed gatherings like this, I also happened to study a bit and then study a little deeper about your rule of life now for monthly recollections, not only for you, also for the entire province. So with this in our mind, now we will first of all try to understand what is the need to learn about this rule of life, especially in our monthly recollections starting from this month. I'm telling you, my dear sisters, even in the last meeting, when I addressed the whole province in 3 meetings, I said we need constitutions in the religious life. Whether my priestly life or your religious life, we need constitutions. Because only constitutions can explain why the founder founded this congregation. What is their vision? And what was the purpose of founding a congregation like this? So this will help you, my dear sisters, to recognize better your religious call and also to deepen your religious commitment according to your occasion or according to your call. And then we are studying in a deeper manner about your rule of life, which I call the Constitution for the Sisters of the Cross. This will help you to live your consecration, to live your commitment. So this is not just for formality. If at all we want to have a meaningful religious life, I think we should know the constitution of our own congregation. And then second thing I want to tell you, why we need to study again and again these constitutions. This will help you to live fraternally in your religious communities. Everybody practically live in a community. Even when you go to a school or college for your ministry, you are in a community. You are not an island. You are not doing anything separately or individually. So basically, if you know better about this rule of life, about your religious congregations, constitutions, then you can also live that in your religious communities, which I mean you can live fraternally. Thus, you can continue your mission wherever you are and whatever your ministry you are doing. And that is why I think the provincial team has acted for deepening your knowledge, first of all, in the rule of life, and not only for the knowledge sake, also for living sake, so that you may put into practice what you have accepted as your own constitution. They have given me 11 titles or 11 chapters. Each title or each chapter will be taken for each month, and this month we are taking the historical note. That is the beginning also in this rule of life. If you see that, you will understand this rule of life, first of all, talks about the historical note. What is the historical note? You know better. That speaks about the history of the congregation, how it was founded, and by whom it was founded, and for what purpose it was founded. And in that, I have taken something which I call as the art of historical. This is the core words are core sentences which I find as the heart of historical law. What is that? Please listen carefully. Also look at the board carefully. In extreme poverty and great simplicity, a congregation, your congregation as a new type of religious life for those times was born. I'm going to explain only this. In my talk, I'm going to explain in detail only this. And that is why I call this sentence or this few words as the heart of the historical notes. Now we will go one by one. You are called to be witness of the gospel, or in plural, witnesses of the gospel. First of all, we have to understand how the congregation was founded. Again, you see, in extreme poverty and great simplicity, it was born in year 1838. And before that, if you read the historical note, my dear sisters, you will understand those two elements which are putting the background for the emergence of a congregation like this. What is that? One is French Revolution. Another one is Johnsonism. Okay. And this I am proposing as a political background and religious background to see the inception of this congregation or the birth of this congregation. Political background and religious background. Political background, I am taking French Revolution. Religious background, I am bringing Johnsonism. We will see little more in detail what is that the political background which I want to speak little more elaborately when I have introduced French Revolution as the political background. French Revolution, as historians, you may know, or even if you have studied this, you may know 1780. 18th century, French Revolution took place. Why we should know what happened in France? Because the congregation was founded in France. So, the political background is the French Revolution, and because of the French Revolution, the church and the life of the church was very much affected. What was the condition of the church before French Revolution and what was the same after French Revolution has to be carefully studied. Because of the French Revolution, the revolution shook both the state and the church. Both the state and the church. The state also faced a big threat or a big revolution, the same also for the church. The church properties were nationalized because of the French Revolution. And before that, everything was the property of the church. And the church administered the properties. And now, what happened because of French Revolution? The whole property became the government's property. That means the church was deprived of the wealth. The church was deprived of the properties, material properties I'm talking about. Naturally, the church also was in a crisis. The church was in a crisis. And another thing, there was a separation of state and church. Before that, you know, only the bishop sometimes would crown the king. That was not in practice. And now what happens? The state is different and the church is different. There is no relationship hereafter between the church and the state. That means what? The state did not depend on the church after the French Revolution. The state did not need religion after the French Revolution. That means, what do we see here? Hereafter, the church cannot interfere into the matters of the state. Church has to do only the religious duties. It cannot interfere or it cannot entertain anything into the state or into the affairs of the state. And for the religion, I'm talking about Christianity. there was also a loss of religious properties and religious rights. Today we are talking as minorities for our own religious rights. And because of the French Revolution, the religious properties on one side, the church had to lose its properties, on another side, also the freedom it had to lose. And this is the political scenario when this congregation was founded. And the next, you should know what is Johnsonism. Theologically, what is Johnsonism? Jansenism in Roman Catholic history is a controversial religious movement. On one side, I talked about the political influence or the political background. Now I am talking about the religious background for the emergence of a congregation like this. A controversial movement. In the history of the church, there have been many, many controversial movements. This is not only controversial movement. This is not the only controversial movement. Church has faced many, many heresies, many controversies, many uncertainties, many struggles in its history. This is one of them. And this also spread to a larger scale in the country of France in the 17th and 18th centuries. That means Jansenism, one of the controversial movements, affected the life of the church in France. Simple people were confused. Ordinary people were confused. And so people, first of all, they were affected, and the church was affected by French Revolution. Now, because of some theological movements, the church or the people, ordinary people, were affected. Johnson, he denied the human faith, free will, and God's desire to save everyone. The biblical reference is 1 Timothy 2, 3 to 4. 1 Timothy 3 to 4 says, "This is good and pleases God our Savior, who wants all people to be saved and to come to a knowledge of the truth." So God's purpose coming down to the earth is to save everybody. Jansenism says God came to save only the elected people, only the chosen people. So this is definitely a heresy and definitely a controversy. Any controversy in the history of the church, of course, has affected the theologians, has affected the life of the church, and to a greater extent, it has affected the simple faith of the ordinary people. And this is what Jansenism has done in France. Jansenism taught on theology of predestination, that Christ died only for the elected people or chosen people. Thus, my dear sisters, French Revolution on the political side, Jansenism on the theological side or religious side, effected confusion and division in the church. You see, the political background is not a stable one. And the same, also the religious background, also there are a lot of divisions and confusions in the everyday walk of life or everyday life of the church, and people were looking for peace, people were looking for unity, and people also were looking for stability. And then we go to the second point. First point, I said the time, the background, or the situation why the congregation was needed, or what is the political and religious background for the emergence of a religious congregation of yours. Now I am taking you to the second point. What is the second point? Social background. We go to the social background and economical background. What is the social background and economical background? Women and children were the most affected class because of French Revolution. Women and children. Definitely, as I go and explain this, you will understand that your founder had a priority for the poor women and the children. She founded the congregation not for everybody, not for the common public. She founded that for the poor women and children. Because of French Revolution, you should know the women were much affected. And I'm saying, it is not women in general, the poor women, the disadvantaged women, the marginalized women, they were the most affected class. Likewise, the children. And what was prevailing in the country among this backward class or among this marginalized class? Extreme poverty. That is why I said those lines are the heart of this historical note. First of all, extreme poverty. Extreme poverty India has experienced. Poor countries have experienced. Do not forget, France also has experienced. And who experienced that? It is not everybody, but the poor and the poorest. Affected much because of these confusions, because of these revolutions. Of course, there were very positive side of French Revolution, but at the same time, we cannot forget also what has happened negatively because of French Revolution. The women were the most affected class, and again, you also cannot neglect the children. And then ignorance. Ignorance on the part of the poor people. Because they were not able to go to school. They were not able to get education. And because of all this, ignorance was prevailing everywhere. If I have to go to school, the religious schools were closed. And now, if you want to have education, you have to pay and study. You have to pay for your school and study. And what was the service of the church before that? The church was always running the schools as a service, especially for the poor, especially for the remote villages, the people who were living in the suburban or the rural areas. And now, because of French Revolution, because we lost the religious rights and freedom, what happened? Many of the institutions also were closed. Charitable institutions or educational institutions were closed. And what is the result of it? Ignorance. And you know better what is ignorance on the part of when I talk about the knowledge and ignorance, because many people didn't get the opportunity to go to school for their education. My dear sisters, I have to tell you, the people also failed in becoming civilized. So on one side, utter poverty, on another side, ignorance, on another side, because there were no basic needs fulfilled, misery and exploitation of the poor also was taking place. This is the social background and economical background. And in this background, now we see Father Mermier. So these are the four backgrounds you should know better if at all you want to understand the ministry of Father Mermier. Father Mermier you call in English, in French we call him Mermier. Okay, whatever be. He is a priest. He is a good priest like me, for example. Father Mermier. He came to remedy all these evils. Four evils I talked about. One is what? Extreme poverty. Another one, ignorance. Another one, what is that? Then finally, exploitation of the poor. Father, with his good heart, he came to help the poor. So this is his heart. A heart for the poor. And Father maybe wanted to remedy all these social evils. And he wanted to help the children. Two important classes before the eyes of Father Mermier. One is women, another one is children. He wanted to alleviate the pain of the poor. And this is the beginning of your congregation. Helping the poor. Alleviating the pain of the poor. And as I said, remedying the evil in the society. This is the beautiful beginning of your congregation. You also consider Father Murphy as one of the founders of your congregation, isn't it? It is not only Mother Claudine, also Father Murphy. So Father Murphy, what did he do in his pastoral ministry? He had the love for the poor. He had the love for the children. And mainly he had the love for the suffering women. And he wanted to do something. His idea was to found a congregation of poor girls. You see, today you call yourself as sisters of the cross. You know the original name? Father Murphy's mind is Daughters of the Cross is the original name. But Father Murphy wanted to first of all found a congregation of poor girls. And later only it developed as Daughters of the Cross. And now Sisters of the Cross. I don't know what is tomorrow. You will be Mistress of the Cross. What about me? You see, this is very, very relevant and meaningful when I say Father Murphy wanted to found a congregation of poor girls. Not for the rich ones, not for the elite ones, not for the wealthy ones. He wanted to basically found a movement, an association for the poor girls. So, my dear sisters, never forget your origin. Never forget your beginnings. Today I want to ask you, never forget the poor. Your origin is for the poor and with the poor. And today we are living, I'm sorry to say, me too, I include myself too. We are living kind of a sophisticated life. And we don't have time even to go and meet the poor, even to speak to the poor, even to spend time with the poor. Don't say, immediately don't give me a reply saying, Father, lockdown, Father, COVID, Father, Corona. I know all that. But I'm saying, not during this time when we are asked to stay inside, but I'm saying, are you having a heart for the poor? And are you having the heart with the poor? That is very important because that is the beginning. That is the beginning. Father Murphy wanted to do something for the poor women and poor girls. And that is the beginning, or that is the dream of Father Murphy, which turned to be Daughters of the Cross in 1838 by Mother Claudine. Only the congregation for the poor girls, in the idea or in the mind of Father Murphy, turned to be the congregation of the Daughters of the Cross by Mother Claudine in 1838. So, the second point would tell us the humble origin, the simple origin of your congregation. Why I am saying humble origin? Because it was founded for the humble people and simple people. The simple poor people. And today you are doing a lot of ministries. Are you really satisfying the basic needs of the poor? That is the question today. And that's why I'm asking, my dear sisters, are you having the heart for the poor? Are you having the heart with the poor? Very important. It is not only with Mother Claudine, it is not only Father Murphy. It is basically with our Lord Jesus. He came for the poor. And He lived poor. He died poor. Let us not forget about our own Lord, who came and lived and eventually died, and even today living amidst the poor. So the congregation of the Daughters of the Cross and Sisters of the Cross cannot neglect the poor from their spirit and from their service. And I'm taking you to the third point. The work of Mother Claudine in the history of this congregation. Great simplicity on the part of Mother Claudine. I said, first of all, poverty. And another side, the historical note explains simplicity. Great poverty and great simplicity. Poverty and simplicity are the two main elements of your mother foundress. Poverty was prevailing, poverty was seen everywhere. A lot of people were deprived of their basic needs, and now, with lots and lots of simplicity, with a simple heart, your mother comes. And what was her ministry? We will go one by one. First of all, she herself is from an extremely poor family. She's not from a very rich family. You know that. When she was 15, she lost her mother. You see, she became very responsible. Very responsible in the sense she had to work to bring forth the rest of the siblings. Until the age of 27, she was only working for the members of the family. Very hard, very hard. Because I told you, she herself is from a very poor background, very poor family. And she knew for certain what does it mean poverty, deprivation, starvation. I think you will agree with me when I say she herself experienced all this in her personal life, very personal life. First of all, she had to work to care for the family members, but at the same time, she was always having a heart for others. When I say she worked for the family, I would never say she was a selfish person. She was not family focused. She was not just family centered. She also had the heart from her childhood for others. A charitable heart. So charitable heart was the heart of Mother Claudine from her childhood. And as she was growing up, she also developed that spirit, the spirit for others, a charitable spirit for others. And only with that spirit at the age of 27, she committed herself to the call of God. And what she does? She begins her mission in the presbytery. She begins her mission in the presbytery. Presbytery, in what way she can be of help? She can help the priest. In that way, she can also help the people. So her first service was pastoral service. Pastoral service. And that is why even today, my dear sisters, whenever an opportunity is given to me to address you, I am saying, please continue your pastoral ministry. Not merely the things that you do because it is given to you as your everyday job. You need to be pastoral. Your mother founder was basically a pastoral woman. A pastoral woman. What was the pastoral work she was doing? Teaching catechism, receiving children, spending time with them. And how many of you are really doing Sunday catechism? Maybe you can say, Father, we have a lot to do. Only on Sundays we are free. You be free, but do not forget that pastoral obligation or the pastoral duty that you are expected to do because of your mother foundress. Am I talking too much? No. Your mother foundress, she was very pastoral, and to a greater extent, she helped the parish priest. Receiving the children, I told you, her heart was always for others, a charitable heart. What she did, having the attitude of Christ, she was a pious, energetic, devoted person at the service of the presbytery, especially for the young poor girls, or the poor young girls. Receiving the girls, teaching them how to write, how to read. That means she wanted to educate the poor. the ministry we are going. First of all, I said the spirit has to be a pastoral spirit. Your heart should be also a pastoral heart. Pastor means a shepherd who can lead the flock. A model. A pastor will lay down his life for the sheep, Jesus said in the Gospel of John, chapter 10. You see, it is not merely teaching, it is not merely educating, it is moreover giving her own life for the life of others. That is the pastoral heart. That is the heart of a shepherd. So she started like that, a pious lady, at the same time, your historical note calls her an energetic lady. Full of enthusiasm, full of interest. Sometimes, when you begin a work, you begin enthusiastically. After 2 months, if somebody asks you, how is your life going on? We lose our interest. We lose that enthusiasm. You see, energetic lady, till the end, not just in the beginning. Till the end, she was more and more energetic. But the first point I said, pious lady. Who is a pious lady? Had a faith in God. That is the first mark of Mother Claudine. The first thing to speak about Mother Claudine is she is a God-fearing mother. A God-fearing woman. My sisters, today I ask you, I encourage you, basically to be God-fearing first. And that is what we learn from the historical note about Mother Claudine. A pious lady. A pious in the sense, not just closing your eyes and always sitting in the chapel. God-fearing and saying, if you fear God, you will do only good. You will avoid evil. You will not do evil. And that is why I said a pious lady, Mother Claudine, was a God-fearing woman. God-fearing woman. And then a devoted person. The third mark of Mother Claudine is a devoted person. Devoted in what? Devoted not only in the church, devoted also to their mission. For the poor girls, for the poor children, for whom she was serving in the presbytery, taking care of them, welcoming them, talking to them, spending time to them, making them civilized people, educating them, helping them to read, also to write. And thereby she also did catechism. So basic things were fulfilled. And the girls who arrived to the presbytery were benefited both intellectually also spiritually. Intellectually and spiritually. This is the ministry, or this is the beginning of Sister Claudine. At that time she was not Sister Claudine, a young lady Claudine. And then she contributed also for the missions from her own savings. When she did this, probably the pastors could have given something. And I told you, when she was younger, before she started all this missionary work or pastoral work, she was working very hard, I said. She could have had some savings for herself. And what she did? Those money was spent for the missions. A missionary heart, a pastoral heart, a charitable heart, a missionary heart. This is the heart of Mother Claudine. You too, my dear sisters, it is not enough to read the historical note, or it is not enough to know about Mother Claudine. You should have these three hearts which I am talking about. Everybody has got only one heart, but you should have these qualities actually. These qualities. Pastoral heart, charitable heart, missionary heart. Be a pastor, be a charitable person, and be also a person for missions. She's not able to go beyond France. but she started helping financially for the missions abroad. And that is her mission now. So, with great simplicity, she did all this. With great simplicity. She was not proud about herself. She was not boasting of herself. Whatever she did, eventually she was very humble. Very humble. That humility or that simplicity also is needed in our life today. Am I right? Yeah, sometimes the problems in the religious communities is because one or two become very proud. They are not able to humble themselves. And this simplicity and humility is very much needed also in our life today. We'll go to the fourth one, the very important one. A new type of religious life was born as a movement now. Mother Claudine, when she founded this congregation as Daughters of the Cross, the whole congregation is called as a new type of religious life. Why? Why this is called as a new type of religious life? I will tell you. From the beginning, the religious movements, when they were founded, or religious associations, when they were founded, solitary life was insisted upon. What is solitary life? Going to a private place, or going to the desert, going to the forest, keeping quiet, not being in the world, or not being doing something amidst the people. But Mother Claudine, when she wanted to found a congregation of yours, the special thing about your congregation, she founded it among the poor people. Wherever there are poor, she wanted to be there. Wherever there was a service needed for the poor, she wanted to be there. And that is why this congregation of yours, in its origin, in its birth, is called as a new type of religious congregation. I'm going to explain that. This congregation was founded not to be in isolation, but to be amidst the poor in the society. This is also well explained in this book when you read about the historical note. To be with the people, to be with the poor. Of course, I don't ask you to get up at this place and to go and to live amidst the people. That is not my intention. But I'm saying we should have the heart for the people outside, and especially for the poor. Especially for the poor. Again and again, when I compare with the life or to the life of Father Mermier or Mother Claudine, I want to insist on this point that religious people, and especially the Sisters of the Cross, you should have the heart for the poor and the suffering humanity today. Suffering people today, they are everywhere. If you go to the streets, you will find them. If you go to this government hospital, you will know how many people are there waiting for our service, are waiting for our solidarity, are waiting for our help. Every evening, whenever I just go across or journey that side, I'm able to see how many people are very, very charitable, and practically every day they are able to serve food for those people. How is it possible? Ordinary lay people, they are doing it. And we are very happy to put it in our reports to say that we spent at least 3 lakhs, 4 lakhs, 5 lakhs during Corona. Yes, we do that in our reports. We spent 5 lakhs during Corona to help the poor, to help the sick people. You go and see in front of the hospital, practically every afternoon and every evening, the people are served with food. Who can do that? How they are able to do that? And today, the world is waiting for our service. Waiting for our service. And this is the spirit of Mother Claudia. This is the spirit of Mother Claudia. To be amidst the suffering humanity. To be with the people, suffering people, needy people. You may tell me, Father, we serve only the humanity by running our college, by running our schools, by running our homes, by running our hostels. Very good. Are you really helping the needy people? That is the question today. You may say yes, I'm happy. If you say no, please do that. This is not for me, not to satisfy me because I preach the recollection. This is to satisfy the one who has called us. One who has called us. So we need to do more. Never say we are doing enough. Never learn to say we are doing enough and more for the poor. Please don't say that. We are expected to still to do more for the suffering humanity. As you see, on one side, the world is growing. We call them as developed countries. On the other side, there are many countries in starvation. Nearby country, your sisters are there in Sri Lanka. You might have learned from them how much the people suffer today. In Pakistan, the people are suffering. Thank God, India is still safer. And you and me are safer. Are you eating every time? They are feeding you very well? Very good. Yes, father, sisters are saying. I'm asking only these little sisters. Yes, father. Very good. Did you hear anything from your sisters in Sri Lanka? Whether they are able to eat every time? No. The children, the women, the poor in Sri Lanka, because your sisters are there for mission. Listen to them, please. Listen to them. And then only you will know that we should be content with what we have. We should be content with what we have. There are certain people, I'm talking about, including me, including our priests, including the religious, complaining always. You are very comfortable to complain. Launch complaints, make complaints. But this is not done, that is not done. Because I am also a formator, no? I listen to also my students. They will say, Father, we are not given this, we are not given that. Hey, my dear man, the seminary is in a big debt because of the marriage hall. Crores and crores of money, we are in a big debt. Please be patient. Father, because of debt, you won't give this? I have no answer. You see, today's, the priestly circle or even the armies, they are not able to understand that we should be content with what we are given or what we have. And I ask my dear sisters in formation, please learn to be content with what you get. Okay? Very good. You are always good because you will say only yes, Father. Very good. So you see a humble beginning, great simplicity, but Mother Claudia founded this congregation, and she founded mainly because she wanted to be with the poor and to live amidst the poor. They would thus help one another in their work, be witnesses of the gospel in their milieu, and be educators of the poorest. Historical note, page 10. You see, this is the new type of the congregation I'm talking about. New type of congregation. Not to be isolators, not to be separatists, not to be individualists, but to be with the poor, to live with the poor. And to be with the poor, to live with the poor, to work for the poor means what? Educator of the poorest. Your book says so. I'm not saying. Educators of the poorest. You know the 3 degrees, no? Positive, comparative, superlative. Very good. Now this is the superlative degree. Educators of the poor, no. Educators of the poorer, no. Educator of the poorest. They are the least of the least. They are the least of the least. And your mother founded this congregation for those least of the least. The little of the little ones. The small of the small ones. And that is the 4th point I am bringing here. And by their services and life example, these sisters set on in their parishes and helped others to come up with their condition of ignorance and poverty. You see, 2 results. Because of this service, what happened? The young women or the poor women and children, they were able to come out of poverty and ignorance. And that is why in the beginning, while I talked about the political background, also the sociological background and economical background, I touched those 2 important elements. Poverty, ignorance. And today, we need to work further to alleviate the pain of the people in terms of poverty and ignorance. And that is why you are having lots and lots of education institutions today. You serve. And you are also having some of the infirmaries. And not in this province, maybe in Madurai province, in, what is that, Recollection? You have got a big hospital, no? Yeah. Health ministry. I think here also you have sisters who are qualified in the medical mission, and you are also taking care of the poor people in the villages. Here and there, you may have some nursing homes or something, I hope. And you do that mission. You do that mission. Poverty, ignorance. Poverty and ignorance were removed because of the services of the sisters. Poor young girls lived a consecrated life in the midst of the world as witnesses of the gospel. My dear sisters, I am coming to the next area. By doing this, by doing all these services for the humanity, please know they became witnesses to the gospel. Not merely doing some social service. They really became witnesses of the gospel. Witnesses of the gospel. Their mission is to do everything in the midst of the world except the evil and begging. Okay, except the evil, I agree. But why it is said except the begging also? I was wondering. Because there has been an order in the history of the church as mendicant order. You know what is mendicant? Begging and helping others. Begging and giving to the other friars, other confreres, other sisters. It has been in the history of the church. But why Mother Claudine put it clearly that we should not do evil, and begging also is prohibited. Why? Those sisters have to work for other people. They have to work physically for others. If you beg, no, your ministry becomes smoother, very easier. That may be one of the reasons why she has put here, except evil and begging. Begging sometimes makes our job easier. So do not beg. You work and give to others. You do your duty and satisfy the needs of others. Evil, definitely, I need not explain. The sisters were allowed to do all the service in the midst of the world except evil. So because we are allowed, because we are encouraged to live amidst the world, in the middle of the world, we are not supposed to do any evil or any evil practice. These two are very important. Begging, let us not bother much about this because we are not going to beg today. But even, my dear sisters, never intend to do any evil for your own sisters first. Then let's go to the society. Never intend to do even an evil act for your sisters in the community. And then those who work with you in the institutions. Be charitable. Be good. And Mother Claudine never wished that the sisters entertain themselves and they were indulging in the evil acts. Mother Claudine never wished that to happen. Please don't do that. And their mission is to be at the milieu of the poor people and serve as educators of the poorest. With these 4 points, now I am taking you to see the 2 models for religious life and 2 spiritualities for your congregation. Who are the 2 models for the Mermier brought? One is the Christ obedient unto death on the cross. The first model is Christ himself. Christ obedient unto death on the cross. Not Christ who was doing miracles. Not the Christ, the historical Jesus who was performing the multiplication of loaves. But for the Mermier brought, first of all, the first model is Christ, the crucified Christ. The crucified Christ. That's why you are called the sisters of the cross. Sisters of the cross. The crucified Christ is the first model. And the second model, definitely Mary, the mother of compassion. Mary, the mother of compassion. So for the Mermier presented these 2 models for the sisters and Mother Claudine. Naturally, she imbibed that spirit from Father Mermier to take those 2 models as the model for her sisters, and today we still have these 2 models as our own models for religious life. So, model means we need to follow according to those 2 models. So, let us follow Christ the crucified. Let us follow Mother, the Lady of Compassion. Compassion. Crucified Christ invites us to suffer for others. To suffer for others. And Lady of Compassion is asking us to do all the service for the poor and for the needy. When she received, as we know, the good news from angel Gabriel, the first act was immediately to go to the hill country to be of service to Elizabeth. There she started her life of compassion. Compassio means, what is that? To feel one with. To feel one with. Passio means passion. To do something with love, that is compassion. To do something with love. Not with a heavy heart. Not without interest. Not without zeal or commitment. Do that with interest, and above that, do that with love. That is our mother, our blessed mother, the second model. And 2 spiritualities. First of all, the spirituality of Francis de Sales. And what is that spirituality of Francis de Sales? who explained embracing the cross means overcoming egoism. Beautiful. Embracing the cross for Francis de Sales means overcoming egoism. You want to embrace the cross? Everybody has the cross now. Starting from this sister up to the end. Everybody is having cross. Sometimes you are having 3 crosses. One cross here, one cross in the rosary, and maybe one other cross in another rosary this side. My dear sisters, embracing cross means overcoming egoism. Beautiful, no? Father Francis de Sales, about whose spirituality you have adopted as your own spirituality, is asking you to overcome egoism. Egoism is the big temptation, to just care about myself and to talk about my own rights, not to leave anything for others. I will talk only for me. I will fight only for me. I will bother only about me. Egoism, making me bigger, making me the bigger and biggest, not bothering about others, not respecting others. All these are included in egoism. If I ask what is egoism, you will say selfish. Being selfish means we cannot leave all this, whatever I have said now. My dear sisters, the opposite of egoism is being charitable. Is being charitable. Be charitable. Be sensitive. And learn to respect. And this is what Francis de Sales, Saint Francis de Sales, whose spirituality we have taken as our own spirituality, would teach us today. It is not enough to embrace the cross, but learn to overcome egoism. And the second spirituality, in the historical note, we learn about the spiritual exercises of Ignatius of Loyola. Should I explain more about spiritual exercises? No. How many of you have done the retreat on spiritual exercises? Practically all. Practically all. You will get a chance. You will get a chance. Practically all. See, the spiritual exercises will help us to make ourselves better persons and better religious. Exercises. Suppose you go to hospital, meet a doctor, you are overweight. What will the doctor advise you? Go and do exercise. That is physical exercise. But why we need spiritual exercises? To make our spiritual life better. To make our human life better. Eventually, to make our religious life better. 2 models, 2 spiritualities. This I have talked about already while I talked about the rule of life. So maybe we will go very fast. I'm not going to explain because I have explained last time when I talked about the importance of rule of life. Isn't it? So this is only a chronological outline or order how it started and how now we have this rule of life. The book, the present book, and the supplementary one, how we have today. So this is the chronological outline of it. I want to stop only in my 3rd point or something. Okay, I will read because I will explain already. 21st August 1838, inception of the congregation. That time, Monsignor Ray was the Bishop of Annecy. Father Maimie gave Sommer de la Sainte Croix, which means summary of our faith, foundation of our hope, the rule of our life. And then 1841, official recognition of the congregation. You know that. This is not for the recollection. This is just to know. This is just to know, or just to remind ourselves. 1843, the first constitutions and common rules of the congregation of the Holy Cross. While the first constitution was made, what is the vision? In the first place, the study, love, and imitation of Jesus crucified. You see, constitution cannot separate you from the crucified Christ. Study, love, imitation of Jesus crucified. So that is the beginning of the constitution, and it has gone to different and various stages. And today also we have renewed the constitution, renewed the rule of life. My dear sisters, I want to ask you to cling on to the foundation, to the beginnings. What is the beginning? Attaching ourselves with the Christ crucified. Our priority and our love for the Christ crucified. Please try to attach yourself with the Christ crucified and live as the cross expects us to live, and the Christ crucified demands us to live. Thank you.